Hey guys, what is up? I have a brand new series coming out. It is called Me and the Mandela Effect. It is 3 parts, and it is me and my ex roommate recounting the Mandela Effect in its infancy, where we, have a good discussion about what life was like, who I was, what they saw in me. I'm hearing some of this for the first time. It's very interesting to listen to, and I thought you guys might enjoy it. So I asked her if I could record our conversation, and it's about a 2 hour conversation, maybe a bit more. And I'm breaking it up into like 3 parts, so more will come. But anyway, this is part 1 of 3. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so I'm here with my former roommate, Candace, who lived with me for. I guess we should set up a timeline, Candace. Um,
Gosh,
like,
it was like 4 years because it was
I
the
know
entire time I was dating my ex.
your ex, yeah, and
Yeah.
but in what time, like, what years was it? Because I remember we moved into
I moved out in 2018 when I moved
2018.
to Idaho.
Yes,
And it was probably the 3.5 years before that. So
3.5 years. You were
2014-ish.
right. So literally in the thick of like all the crazy stuff that we experienced, Mandela
Yes.
effect
So
wise,
yeah.
and all that stuff. And we used to sit there and we were all, friends. There was Bonnie, there was you, me, and of course, we kind of all went through this together. We experienced so much stuff, and it was kind of crazy at the time, right? And then that's when I started getting into the Mandela effect, obviously in the broadcasting side of things. I had the
Yeah.
shop. I had the shop. I had everything, but I wanted to kind of like I've talked about our situation, and I shared with people a lot of times, like certain stories that have happened. Like, oh man, I was here. I've never actually had like I guess interviewed one of the witnesses to some of the crazy stuff that happened. Like I've
There's so
always,
much fun.
oh my god. Okay, so I guess that's the timeline. So we're going back 2018. So from I guess that would be what 2015. I would suppose. Like
Yeah.
would say that's
14, 15, somewhere in
14,
there.
15. Oh boy, and we we hung out a lot because it was like it was kind of like we were like college
I
roommates.
lived there.
You live there,
Yeah.
and yeah, and you got to sail, and there was so much that happened, and just the strangest stuff. And okay,
I like to count a lot of it to your house, though. That's a historical masterpiece.
my house, and maybe like there was so much stuff that happened at the shop, and there was just so many weird things that happened around people that I knew that changed. And you were there. I remember. So we could dive right into it. And my first thought was, dude, one of the stories that always gets me thinking, and I always forget about all the fine details about what this kid said. But you remember that time you came up to the shop, and I was on the phone with that kid, and he was like, he was saying he's working for NASA. Remember that kid?
Yes.
Dude, okay. And I tell people this story, and it just sounds crazy. Like this kid was talking some crazy shit, right? And I always kind of remember some of the stuff he said, but it almost is so unbelievable. It sounds like I'm just making it up.
Oh my gosh, it's been so long.
I
I
know.
remember it. I'm not gonna be lie. Like I don't know that I remember details.
Oh, so well,
Um,
maybe we can
it,
kind of like share some of it, like
that was towards the beginning of
all of this.
when I moved in, so that would have been
Yeah,
uh
that was like, hi,
close
welcome.
to a decade ago.
Yeah, well, gosh, it's been a while.
Oh
It's been a minute, but like that happened, and so you walked in. I remember you walked in the shop. I'm like, yo, I'm on this phone, and I don't speakerphone because I was like, I got to have a witness
yeah,
to this, just because what he was
yeah.
saying was so incredible, right? And I'm asking him like, oh man, I don't know, this is so crazy. So he said that he got a job in Florida, and he's gonna go work for NASA. And like, you did you ever meet that kid?
One time at the shop.
He was at the shop, right? And he didn't
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
look like a NASA kid, right? Like,
No, he looked
No,
like no, not at all.
no. But like, would you believe? Now, we'll try to dive into more detail here, but let's talk about the fact that did it sound to you in any way, shape, or form that that he was making this up or lying?
He honestly seemed scared.
Okay.
I don't know. Like
Yeah.
he was I don't know that he was lying. He was an eccentric guy, but the
Mm-hmm.
details that he gave were insane, and
Yeah.
I just don't see why he would decide to lie.
I remember him
No.
saying stuff like, and I'm not sure what part of the conversation. I mean, literally, you came in within the first few minutes of the conversation, so you
I was
heard
gonna say
most
I
of it.
was there the whole time, yeah.
Yeah, I think you might have been. Maybe I don't know if you came in and you walked in while I was having. I don't know, but I have a kind of a memory of you sort of coming in like kind of right on top of the conversation, and we he was telling me that first he was saying, well, everything we see on the surface is not NASA. NASA's really underground. He likened it to the Men in Black, where you go like
Yeah.
underground and you open up and there's this giant room under there, and they're working on all this stuff. He talked about how there was this some sort of like they could beam thoughts into his head, like as he's walking down the hallways, they could talk to him and say like welcome to whatever and
Yeah.
messages about what's going on that day and stuff like that. And he was getting that information. It was like a totally alien thing, right? And then in
Definitely.
fact, I say alien, but he said that they were working with like other beings underneath the ground. That it was like some sort of alien technology and things like that. That there was vessels. I remember him saying there was these vessels that had what would look like people's souls that were trapped in them and stuff. I mean, like all kinds of crazy shit. And like when I mention this, it's like, I mean, I don't remember all the details because literally I'm kind of a little scared while he's telling me because I'm like, dude, are you okay? Because he was like, I read the non-disclosure agreement. I know what I can say. He kept saying that.
We
Remember?
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, he was definitely adamant about that. The other thing that struck me as weird with him is like he was legit scared, Dan. He was freaked out at what he had seen and what he had been a part of and
Right.
everything. He was rattled. And that's one of the reasons I don't think he was making it up is because he was so rattled. And
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's a chance it was all in his head, but
Maybe. Right. I mean, there's a
dude,
chance. Right. Okay.
dude
Fair
was
enough. However, like the details were so, like he never missed a beat. I remember when he was talking.
yeah.
Like some people when they're lying, they'll just have to think. But like either he really experienced that, or maybe he's like he got MK Ultra or something, and they implanted memories that seem real. I mean, the point is this is what he said, okay? And he also was saying stuff like, yeah, I've read the non-disclosure agreement. I'm like, and it was so weird, right? Do you remember me saying, dude, are you sure you're supposed to be telling me all this? Like,
Yeah.
because I was
Yeah.
like, dude, don't get me followed by some agency, bro. I don't need this shit in my life, you know?
I do remember that.
Yeah,
Funny.
yeah, and anyway, so I was wondering if you had any memory or any recollection of that event and what.
I wish I did. I remember walking in the shop and hearing him talk, and you were like, "Dude, I know I was gonna work on your car, but this is kind of important." Like, witness it.
Oh God, so much was happening. Oh, so
I know.
so do you remember when like what was I like when I first and you can help the audience know because see this is the thing is like it's all been such a blur for me like you're sort of the witness to me and what I went through.
Yeah.
You were kind of there and so was Bonnie but you were there as sort of an outsider sort of like peering in on what the hell is going on with Dan. So I was pretty much just a normal cat just with a shop, right?
Very,
Right?
definitely. I
You're,
mean,
you're atypical guy.
honestly, all the Mandela stuff really freaked me out, and I'm like, dang, Dan's gone off the deep end.
Dan's lost his ever loving mind. What did you think?
And it was like
Yeah,
all of a sudden that you changed. I mean, it was kind of like overnight. You're like, hey, look at this. And we're like, Dan, don't go down that road.
yeah.
Don't do it.
It got it
And
got
then
strange. Yeah, yeah. I,
it got real strange real quick.
yeah, you're like oof. Yeah, but here was the thing. Now looking back at everything, And of course, hindsight being 2020 and all, looking back, I was right, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it was like all this shit was happening, and it really threw me for a loop. And so what kind of changes did you see in me, like when it first happened? Like what did you notice?
Oh gosh. Don't put me on the
Yeah, I
spot.
am. I am.
I mean, it was an instant obsession for you, Dan. I mean, I
Yeah.
you went from I don't know. It
It
was
went
it
from
was
fail
like it pulled
videos.
you to
It
you.
went from
It
fail
went from
videos
like
and
having some little tiny glimpse of something might be out there
yeah.
to like it was like all you could think about. It consumed you. And then it was like everywhere we looked, we saw things. And then it was unavoidable.
Yeah.
Um, and then that was all I would say a 3 month
Mm.
period where we went from watching funny fail videos in the
To
office
what going into
before
diving
bed every
into
night
like what the
to
hell's happening to reality.
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember Bonnie and I just being like, man, like, what happened to Fun Dan? Like, now he's crazy. And then,
Oh my god, I know, right? Well,
and then you got us too. But
and then you guys were starting to get a little pull back a little bit, like because it does get after a while, you start seeing this stuff, and then at first you're like, oh, that's interesting, and then it starts to work on you, like, okay, yeah, it's interesting, but shit, dude, why is this happening, right? You start to wonder,
right, right, right. And gonna be a little bit off topic, but do you remember my family's story about the shield from
Oh,
Papua New Guinea?
please tell the audience about the shield story. I've tried to tell the story.
Okay.
I've mentioned that, but I butcher it. Tell the story about this shield.
Okay.
What?
So,
Okay.
so I guess a little bit of backstory. My dad was
Oh,
pretty much raised in Papua New
tell the
Guinea. He was a
story. Tell the
missionary
story
kid.
about the missionary kid and your dad. First, tell that
And
story. Tell him
then,
who your dad is.
okay. I always say my parents were Tarzan and Jane because my dad grew up in a jungle, pretty much with a tribe. And my mom's from California.
Perfect.
But so my grandpa was a missionary, and he traveled out into the middle of the mountainous woods of Papua New Guinea and found a tribe that accepted him in. And so my dad was raised pretty much with this tribe. And at some point, um, I guess the people, the language is Kalam, the people are Simbai. So the people of Simbai, um, of the Simbai tribe, they, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember all this stuff.
Oh, you're doing great. Don't worry. I'm
Okay,
putting you
so
on the spot,
so
so
they
you're
got
doing great.
into the people with Simbai and the people, the New Guineans, and this is 1960s. The New Guineans have a lot of witchcraft and stuff like that going on, witch doctors, and the warriors, they would take over the next tribes. Like they would go in, raid, kill the men, steal the women as their own, that kind of stuff. Um, and basically the warriors had these little bitty shields, very very small, and they were maneuverable but not protective. And the warriors would go in and slay a whole small tribe in a night and steal all the women by themselves. And they would pray the ancestors into these shields for the protection of the warrior. They had bigger shields, but they weren't as prestigious, I guess. At some point, the 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 tribe gave the shield to my grandpa and said, like, this has to stay with you. You have to get it away from the tribe, like send it back to America. And so my grandpa sent it back to, his storage facility here, um and it sat in there for a while. Um so when my dad and mom bought their house in Texas, they kind of went through my grandpa's storage and put a whole bunch of stuff in their attic. It's expensive paying for storage, and my grandparents were in New Guinea until 95. And we just moved into this house. I was about 2 years old, so somewhere around 91. Um, my brother started pointing into like a corner of my parents' bedroom, and he would scream bloody murder, just scream
Mm.
like like insane, screaming and pointing, and he would be drawn to this room, and then he'd just point and
Point
scream.
at the corner of the
And
room.
my mom would drag him
So
into my parents' room,
he'd point.
and
Okay.
it was like a corner of the
So it
room.
was just a particular corner.
Yeah, one specific corner,
Interesting.
very specific
Okay.
corner. So it got to the point where my parents didn't let my brother go in there. And this is my older brother, so he would have been he was actually, we moved in there right after his 6th birthday, so it's not like he was a teeny tiny child.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so at some point, my parents, being believers, they're like, they've prayed over the house, they've prayed over everything. And they're like, what's going on? Like, why does this keep happening? And my dad's like, well, I've got some unique artifacts up in the above the house in the attic. And so he crawls up there, and the only thing that's really close to that area was the warrior shield. So he takes the warrior shield down, and he actually takes it down to a shed. Our property, basically, my parents ended up owning 3 acres out of a 40-acre lot. And so my grandparents' house was being built um, directly behind my parents' house, but there was a big giant pond in between the two. And so so my dad actually put it down in a little barn that was being built for my grandpa for when they returned from New Guinea. And not much happened there for quite a few years, and everything was good. And um, I always got this weird feeling as a kid walking down to my grandparents' house once it was built. And, even as a teenager, like there's a strip next to the pond. It was in between the pond and the shed. And I mean, it like rattled my soul. Like, I mean, I had plenty of things to be afraid of. There were plenty of dangerous snakes on that property.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I mean, I would literally run. Like, until I was like 15, I would run past that shed.
What were you feeling?
I thought it was more the water I was afraid of, which
You
I
were
went
just
swimming in that pond,
sensing
so that wasn't.
something. You were just feeling.
Yeah, it was a heavy, heavy, heavy
Oh,
presence. Like danger is here, danger.
wow.
And so I would run through that teeny tiny little path right between the water and the shed. Uh, and not too much. I mean, I did almost step on a copperhead there, not, but that was after I was already afraid.
Right. Right. Right.
And so, that was anyway, so speed up a few years. My grandfather passed away, oh gosh, somewhere around 12 years ago. And he had cancer. And so my dad decided that he would take some of the New Guinean artifacts to the church, and set up like a little memoir of my grandfather's work. I mean, he learned a language of a tribe, created a written language for that tribe, translated the Bible cover to cover into that newly created written language, and then taught all the tribe people how to
Oh
read.
my God. Wow.
That's why my
Imagine. I
grandpa
don't
was
think
in
I
New
could
Guinea
do
so
that in a
long.
few lifetimes. That's quite an
They
amazing
started out as
guy.
cannibalists. And yeah, so
Wow.
so that was my grandfather's work. So of course we set up this booth, and my dad just grabbed some of the spears and a bow and arrow. I could actually send you a picture of my dad with some of the New Guinea
Yeah,
artifacts
I'll
and stuff.
post them.
And
When we do the post editing, I can just throw the pictures up as
yeah,
we're talking. Yeah.
I'll actually send you some of the family pictures of New Guinea. It'd be pretty
Oh
cool.
yeah, that'd be
But
wonderful.
um, so so at this point, my oldest brother, Chris, he's got a son that's somewhere around 3 years old at that time. Um, and his name is Zach. And so we've got this whole memoir set up for my grandpa in the back. And Zach is staring at it through the whole service. And he keeps like bugging my brother. My brother's like, this is my grandfather's service. Like, I want to pay attention. Like, there's stories being told here, like that he wants to remember. And Zach just was really persistent. And he asked, finally, Chris is like, what's going on, Zach? And Zach's like, why is there a naked black man in the corner?
Oh wow.
And Chris is like, what? And he turns around, and all it is the New Guinea artifact. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, he's holding a big stick.
Wow.
My brother's like, what are you talking about, Zach? Like, there's nobody there.
So, oh my
So at
goodness.
this point, Chris is kind of freaked out. Um, and he service is kind of over, but we had snacks and we actually kind of hung out there for quite a few hours. And
Wait a minute, you had
so
snacks
Chris
after.
tells my dad.
Wait a minute, after this
My dad's
revelation
like,
that there's a naked black man
dude,
in the corner, everyone's like, let's have snacks? Like, no, I think snacks are over.
right?
Oh my
No,
God.
so without really warning anyone of what's going on, like my brother goes and tells my dad, and my dad tells one of the senior pastors at the church, and they go back over there, and they're praying over the area, and the senior pastor's like, this shield, it's on the shield, and my dad's like, that's the shield that was above the corner that Chris used to scream at.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And um so we actually took that shield and threw it away in the garbage, and went home and went on with our lives. And my parents, um, were kind of helping clean out everything at my grandparents' house. And they opened up the shed, and the shield is in there.
Oh,
And they're like,
stop.
"How did the shield come back?" No, it's
Surely it was just another
well,
shield. Maybe he had more than one. I mean, he worked in Papua New
they
Guinea
actually
for
have a
his
lot
whole
of
life. I mean, you know.
they have carvings. And like I said before, like
Oh,
this is the warrior shield. This is not just
I
anyone's
see.
shield. Most people had the big
Oh boy.
shields. Like the warrior shields, they were the smaller, but
So you're telling
I
me
guess
this
more
this
highly sought
shield now?
after.
Let's just get this straight for the audience. So this shield like manifested itself from the garbage at the
In a completely different
in a
city.
completely
So
different
about
city, and then literally just showed up back in the shed.
it came back, right. So we were like, and at this point in time, my grandma's still alive. My aunts are still on the property sometimes, and so we're like, well, maybe one of my aunts heard that we threw the shield away and brought it back. And my aunt Cherry was actually living at the property at the time, and we're like, maybe Aunt Cherry like just brought it back. She crawled up in there. I could see her dumpster diving.
Okay.
um anyway, so we kind of write it off, and my dad's like, I really don't think that shield needs to stay on the property.
Hmm.
And so he takes cinder blocks and throws it into the pond. And you know nothing happens for a while, and all is good and well. And a few years later, they open up the shed, and guess what's home?
You know, and not
So
now.
it goes on. My other aunt,
Wow.
dad now he's the oldest of the kids, and he like talks to his siblings, and he's like, what is going on with this? And Aunt Cherry did end up admitting that she brought it home from the
She
church.
did.
And then we're like, who told you that it was in the dumpster? She's like, I don't know. Like, it called me. Like, it told me it was there.
Oh boy.
And so she went and got
Well,
it
that makes okay.
and
We got
threw it in the
there's
dumpster.
that mystery solved. Okay, but now
Right,
but
right.
now the shield
So
is in the pond.
from the pond. And she did say she put it in a different storage shed. My grandparents were hoarders. So she said she put it in the little storage shed next to the house, but it wasn't. It was in the big kind of like barn shed
Hmm.
thing.
Well, the fact that she retrieved it
Anyway,
is,
uh-huh.
okay.
So my dad like is like, you know what? There is something about the shield. Like we have to get it out of the family. It has to leave the family. Um, and um, and my other aunt Miriam, she goes crazy and like takes the shield and is like, it's mine. Like my dad's like, you know what? As long as it's not near my family and my kids, away from my property, I'm happy with that. So Aunt Miriam took it, um, and pretty much has gone crazy. She's we we actually do not socialize with her anymore, and we were always really really close. But we're pretty sure she's possessed. I know that sounds really crazy and wild, but
Mm-hmm.
um,
So it's funny.
I,
Like the more you talk about like the fact that the shield like sort of remanifests itself once it's in the lake. Now it's in the dumpster. Okay, well, so one of the ants grabbed it out of the dumpster. We know that, but The lake,
Yeah.
like, do you think maybe it was floating on top of the water and maybe?
My dad said that what he did was he took a cinder block and like wrapped it all the way around. At this point, there was no handle left to hold. It's a at this point that's a 40-year-old item,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's weathered and worn. And so he really wraps it up. He said he used chains, but I don't know. I wasn't there for that part. But he said he chained it up and wrapped
Hmm.
threw it in the pond.
Okay. Well, now
And the pond is about 30 feet deep. It's a big
that
one.
should, yeah, that should kind of do it. Um. So,
Yeah.
but burning the shield wasn't an option.
I don't know that it was ever talked about.
I mean, some lighter
I
fluid
mean,
and.
we live in Texas. There's always a burn ban going on, right? Unless if there's a
Oh,
flood.
I don't know. There's always a
But
barbecue too. I'm just thinking,
it's true. So I don't know. I don't know if that was ever discussed. So I wasn't always there for everything.
Okay.
But all I know is that the aunt that has the shield today is pretty insane.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
her own kids don't talk to her.
Oh my God, it's gotten that bad.
Um,
And so you
she,
really do believe it had something to do with there was something obviously
1000%.
there's something
You could
obviously.
not convince me.
Well, being that the child saw some sort of something manifest in.
Chris and Zach, which they're both firstborn sons.
Yeah.
And I had an uncle that stayed in Papua New Guinea. He actually died of COVID last year
Oh,
in
so.
New Guinea.
Oh wow.
But he married a native. Um, and so, so I do have New Guinean cousins. Um,
Yeah.
and they were saying that a lot of times the uh, the the curses, if an item is cursed, the curse will follow the firstborns.
Hmm. Interesting.
So it's just kind of weird that, my dad felt compelled to pull that out of storage and put it about in his room. And then Chris screams at a corner. And then Zach sees a naked man in the back of a church.
That's very specific. A black man at
Yeah.
that.
With a stick.
With a
With
stick.
a
With a
stick.
stick. Yeah, like you couldn't
With a stick,
you couldn't
man.
make this you couldn't make this up. Like okay, so if the kid saw like maybe he says a ghost and he wasn't ready, it's a ghost.
No,
But no,
no,
but he's like,
it wasn't, he didn't say it was a ghost. He said just a straight up like naked black man in the back of the church with a stick.
and the shield from where again? New Guinea.
The shield from Papua New
Yeah.
Guinea.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
the people of Simbai is
It's Simba.
specifically where it's from.
And the people of Simbai are what color again?
They're black.
Okay. I just,
And if anyone doesn't know,
checking.
so Papua New Guinea is not considered African, and my cousins will get mad at me if I say they are African American. They're like, we are not from Africa and we are not from America.
Right.
So I choose to use black as what my cousins identify as. And they are adopted. They are not my blood cousins, but they are my cousins.
Very interesting. Now, there's also another story that goes along with this about your
Oh,
yeah
there are so
about
many
your
stories that go
father. I
along
think
with them.
no, it has to do with your dad. This particular one about wasn't your dad also in New Guinea?
Yeah, my dad grew up in New Guinea. He
Yeah,
was
he
there
grew up,
until he was
and
17.
there was a boy that was a friend there in New Guinea.
Oh, you mean Steve Irwin?
Now tell her
Uh,
who is Steve Irwin again? I forgot who is Steve Irwin.
yeah. So, my dad, I've got pictures of him holding up rattlesnakes and everything that he's caught with his bare hands because, he's Tarzan. Um, anyway, so my dad left New Guinea when he was like 17, and he had a large collection of snakes and creatures that he had caught in the jungles. And they have a lot of the same wildlife that Australia has. Um, anyway, so there was this little boy that my dad, I say little, he was like 14 when my dad was 17. But it was this boy that would help my dad out, and he'd go catch mice and rats and stuff for my dad's pet snakes. And my dad's like, he's kind of a nuisance, but he feeds the snakes and does work for me.
Right.
um, anyway, my dad moves back to America and sets up his life. And one day, my grandma comes to my dad and she's like, "Did you see the news? That little boy that you used to play with in New Guinea. He died. My dad's like, what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, Steve Irwin, he died. And my dad's like, that's the boy I used to play with? Like, I remember his name was Steve, but what?
He didn't
Like,
even know it was he. So
isn't
the
he from
entire
Australia?
time,
He did not know he was, like, yeah, did not know
your dad didn't know. No,
at all.
no. Tell everybody. Steve
No,
Irwin had a popular show. What was that called? It was Crocodile Hunter. I couldn't think of the name. Yeah.
Crocodile Hunter.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go.
So yeah. So Steve Irwin was the crocodile hunter. We've all watched him, when especially when he first started becoming popular. We thought he was so cool, jumping on crocodiles and wrestling shit. And we're like, oh my god, man, this guy's like the coolest guy ever, right? But it turns
Yeah,
out that he kind of became the cool guy because he sort of got, in a weird sense, got trained by your dad to sort of how
yeah,
to how to how to
yeah.
handle the animals and capture them and stuff. Isn't that
And
interesting?
I'm going to be real honest, there are discrepancies in the story.
Yes.
So my dad, first of all, did not remember this. Um, he didn't remember that that was Steve. Irwin, of
Okay.
course. He was a popular name back then.
Sure.
Um, but when I started trying to research this myself, my dad is like, yeah, he does look like him. Like that all looks right. Like,
Okay.
yeah, like that totally could be the same kid. My dad came back to America with a New Guinea or with a Australian accent. Grandma said that Steve's parents
Mm-hmm.
were missionaries too.
Okay. Is that true?
Um, I can't find anything about it.
Hmm.
I cannot back that story up. I do not know. I cannot figure it out. Um, I don't know. And it's been a long time since I've actually tried to look it up. But I could not verify that story myself, just from what my grandma and my dad said. My dad's like, wow, that really is him. So my dad remembers him. So I don't know if it's a personal family Mandela effect, or if they just don't have the information about Steve Irwin's childhood on there. I'm sure. I
Huh.
don't know. I don't know. So supposedly my dad gave Steve Irwin all of his beginning snakes, and taught him about them. But
So your
I
grandmother
can't even back
believes
that up
it's
myself.
Steve
So
Irwin. So that's
yeah,
interesting. So what we need to figure out is if there's any link to Steve's parents being missionaries in Papua New Guinea because they would have been there
yep,
at the time. Now, if that's true, that it's probably is the same kid. But
yeah.
yeah, wow, that would be pretty cool to know. I mean, it's a small world, right? I mean, I wouldn't be
It is.
surprised. It's weird. Then again, who knows? Maybe it's just a doppelganger of Steve.
I'm like, it could be, Mandela effect, like, he was and then he wasn't. I
Right,
don't know.
right,
Uh,
right.
like I said, I only know that my grandma was really rattled that, they said that my dad's friend died by stingray.
And she seemed to believe
But
the grandmother believed that
oh,
was
grandma
Steve.
definitely believed.
Grandma
Yeah,
knew. She's like,
my grandma is the one that told my
now
grandpa,
your
like
dad says that the
my
kid he
grandpa, my
looks
dad.
similar to the kid that was there.
Yeah, yeah, my dad's like, I never put two and two together, but that does look like him.
Wow.
So,
Well, I mean, people look alike. I mean, there are.
uh,
I guess what are
are
the
you trying
odds
to
that?
say all Are you
No,
trying to
no.
say all Australians look the
Oh,
same? I'm
no,
just
absolutely
no.
not. What I'm trying to say is that I mean, is it possible that there's a guy with the same name, okay, that happened to be there learning to capture and handle animals and stuff like that in Papua New Guinea about the same time? Also, you know what we could do too? If you think Steve was about 14, then we could probably
Yeah,
do we could
so
look at the ages and see when Steve died and how old he was when he passed
where's the
away.
piece of paper? I'm gonna
So
write this
so
down.
so Steve died. He was born in 1962. He passed away in 2006. He was 44 years old at the time.
So he was born in 62?
Yes.
Okay, this is already not adding up because my dad was born in 63. So that would put Steve as being older than my dad.
Oh, so maybe it didn't work.
Wait,
Okay.
no, my mom was born in 63. My dad is 89. Or I'm 89, so my dad's 30 years older than me. So it's 59? Oh
Okay.
crap, that does add
Oh
up.
shit, that does add up. That's 3 years. That's three
My,
years,
my
right?
dad is exactly
3 years.
30 years and 4 days older than I am.
Oh my
So,
god. Oh, okay. Maybe this is that. This is okay. That kind of gave
okay.
me. Oh, that's interesting.
So
So
also
there's
something else to add is that at some point they kind of made like a missionary camp like a boys and girls home to take care of the missionaries' kids, kind of while parents were out in the field. And so there were during school, my dad, and his siblings kind of lived in like a boys' home or that kind of thing. It wasn't like they were always with the tribe,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Okay.
So they would go to school and everything like that, and my grandparents were out with the people of Simbai.
This is so
I don't
weird
know.
because it really does look. But it says right here in his early life, Irwin was born on his mother's 20th birthday. It says here his parents were both of English and Irish descent, with some
Okay.
Swedish on his mother's side. He moved with his parents as a child to Queensland in 1970, where he attended Landsborough State School. And then it goes on here. Irwin described his father as a wildlife expert interested in herpetology, while his mother, Lynn, was a wildlife rehabilitator. After moving to Queensland, Bob and Lynn Irwin started a small Queensland reptile and fauna park where Steve grew up around crocodiles and other reptiles. So
So
there's no
absolutely
mention,
nothing about missionary work.
absolutely nothing about,
Nothing about taking.
but is there a possibility that they went to, maybe they were there, they weren't necessarily missionaries, maybe they were there and they went to
Mhm.
Papua New Guinea to maybe learn about different species. I don't know,
I don't
and
know. I mean, he
I have
would have
no
been a
idea.
boy.
Yeah.
I, I
Oh,
don't know. So like I said, I don't know. I don't know if it's a personal Mandela or if it's just like the wrong kid or I don't know.
it,
Um,
it seems weird. I mean, he is exactly the right age, like you
right.
said. Yeah, you called it before I even looked it up, and then
And then
his
I
name
was
is.
thinking my
I
mom's
don't
age
know.
instead of my dad's.
Well, and that's the thing is like
Mm,
maybe they don't want to mention anything with them
I don't know.
and their religious maybe religious viewpoints and stuff like that. They want to I'm saying like they want to let's not say he's a Christian or maybe I don't
I don't
know.
know.
They're just weird about stuff like that. Like and then like there's a publicist out there be like well right now that wouldn't be a good thing because blah blah. Like I wonder if they just don't want to mention stuff like that or maybe we need to look into some more
I don't
details
know.
into his
I
life.
mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's definitely.
It'd be really interesting. It's just it's bizarro, but it goes back to that same story about my friend. Yeah, I don't know if you met Fred. Do you remember Fred, my friend? Yeah,
Red.
Fred. He was up at the shop a few times. I don't know if you ever
I
ran
don't
into him,
know.
Fred. Yeah, Fred was this guy. So Fred, he had a very unique last name.
What was his?
Shurrock. Shurrock. His name was Shurrock.
No,
I've
I don't
never met a
recognize that at
Shorrock
all.
ever, right?
Yeah,
And
no.
this is the craziest story. And this is like Mandela. This is in the middle of Mandela effect. And I tell this story all the time where, okay, so Fred meets this girl at like, I think she was working at O'Reilly's. I say O'Reilly's with an S. That's the way I remember it, people. Anyway, so it was
Me
O'Reilly's,
too.
yeah, O'Reilly's Auto Parts. Okay. So he meets this girl, and then, like girls do, they always like to look you up on Facebook, check you out before going out with you. I get it. Whatever. So she does that. And lo and behold, he brings her back to the house. They had they went out to dinner. I guess they went to see a movie, whatever. He says, hey, you want to come by and hang out at the house, whatever. So they go over there, and she's looking around. She's like, where's your dog? And he's like, I don't have a dog. And she's like, yes, you do. You posted a picture of him like a few days ago. He's like, no, I didn't. And she's like, oh, well, okay. This is all going so well. Why, God? Here we go. I'm like literally, I'm here with a creeper. Like
Right.
like all of a sudden, this is like turning like kind of strange. So she gets out her phone and she goes, look, there you are. You friended me. And he goes, that's not me. And it was, but it looked identical to him. The kid looked identical to him. Now he goes by Fred. This kid went by Frederick. And in his past, in his history, his parents wanted to name him Frederick. They were going to call him that, but they called him Fred. And the kid actually is from Canada. She didn't look up all the little details. She was just looking up the pictures and stuff like that. And the guy looked exactly like him, maybe a little bit younger, but definitely almost like same crazy hairdo. He had like
Crazy.
I tell this joke. It's a joke, people. But he had like a Jew fro, and and like he had. I'm
So does my
serious. And
brother.
his name is Shorrock. His name is Fred. It looks identical to him, and so Fred hits him up. He's like, "Dude, check this out. This is me, and that's you." And both of them thought it was really strange, like total doppelganger shit going on right here, right? So
Weird.
much that it fooled his new girlfriend, you know. And I was like, "Did you ask the kid, like, did you find out more information about him, some details?" And it was so weird. They just kind of like, didn't want to even, explore anything. And I'm like, "Are you crazy?" Me as a researcher, I'm like, "Dude, I'd be like, okay, bro, you have any family in America? Tell me where you came from. Like, let's,
Right?
because obviously, even if he isn't like your doppelganger, he's definitely related to you in some way. I mean, you people are like clones, all right?" So that's how weird it was. Anyway, so I often wonder, who knows? Who knows what the Mandela? I mean, the doppelganger thing is definitely raging on, where people at least claim they have, walked into say a hotel, sat down at the bar to the guy right next to him that looks
Yeah.
identical. Strange shit like that. Okay, well, that's cool. So
I thought I
yes,
had a doppelganger, but it
you
turned
did.
out that, yeah. So, I moved to here in Idaho, and I transferred from a Sam's Club to a Walmart. And like one of my first weeks there, I saw this guy, and I was like, dude, that guy looks like he looks so familiar. I'm 1,700 miles away from anyone I ever knew, and yet this guy looks familiar. And working at the same store as I was working at. And so after a little while, a couple years go past, and we're sitting in the break room. We work different shifts. We work different departments. Have no reason to ever talk. And he's sitting in the break room, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go back and see my family." And he spins around, Texas, and I'm like, "Yeah," and he's like, "I'm from." And I'm like, "What? That's like a small town. Like nobody knows you, even if they're 30 minutes away. Like what?" And so we start talking, and it turns out he worked at the HEB, and actually worked with our
What?
former roommate, Bonnie. And I had met him there once when a crawdad escaped the live crawdad enclosure, and I found it along the back wall of the store, and I brought it back up to Delhi.
Oh my God! You got to be kidding me! What are the
So
odds?
this whole time I kept looking at him. I was like, dude, like he looks so freaking familiar. Why do I think I know him? And I'm like, he's the he's a scrappy guy. Like I don't know. Had very like I don't know, very specific look to him. And so like for
What?
2 years I sat there and thought that he was a doppelganger of somebody, and it turns out he was from. I
That
met
is
him one
so
time.
weird. So that is
Yeah.
almost as strange as the story of
Like,
like this story is. It's almost similar. So when I got married, my ex-wife and myself, we went to Las Vegas,
mm-hmm.
and we went to go see the Circus Soleil, and all the tickets, all the regular tickets were purchased, and I was like, damn. And we're on our honeymoon, and you're trying to be, you don't want to be like a like a cheap ass. So I was like, fine, give me the expensive seats. So I paid like I think it was $175 a seat to watch Circus Soleil. We got to sit on the third row right in front,
No
and we got to
No.
see O. We went to see O, and I remember walking down. Well, when you get those kind of seats, you get ushered down there. You get
Yeah.
an escort. So this girl is, she's just making small talk, and then we're like, yeah, we live here in Texas, and the girl goes, "I'm," and I'm like, what? How in
So
the
weird.
hell could I be like? What are the odds that I'd be like walking down there, getting sat at this, at it could have been, and they had like the event. I think, it could have been any event I went to, any show we just picked O, and then in Las Vegas, Nevada, of all places, a really
Yeah.
big city, and there she is. She's from the same town. And I thought that was really strange. How I don't know how synchronous life can be. So.
Right.
All right, guys, I'm going to end it right there. Thank you for listening to part one of Me and the Mandela Effect.